Hi YouTube, this is MOP Talks with Trev. I'm Trev, and this is Modern Organic Philosophy. Today, we're moving on to the number 5, and I'm going to talk about fiveness, objectively in the universe, as well as subjectively in your individual psychic life or, psychological. So that's what we're focusing on. The wisdom of the universe as used by your individual person. Because what good is all this shit if it's not for you? And what good is it if it's not holistic? Taking the larger aspect. What good is knowing an individual little subject without knowing how it works with the rest of the subjects and how it all goes together? So we really are cooking with grease now because we're on to the number 5. If you've ever noticed before, the human has 5 fingers, 5 toes, and the number 5 is significant in esoteric, spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it, the occult, the famous pentagram, of course. I don't even need to bring up a picture of that because you've all seen it. And we're going to talk about how it connects with you. So, as we know, the 5-sided pentagram has to do with the 4 elements plus the hidden element, which is spirit. And they'll say that it's evil if you put it upside down because you're putting the physical attributes of the macrocosm over spirit itself, which seems immoral, especially from a Christian perspective. And, when you look at the pyramid, you assume that spirit is the tip of the iceberg coming down into the 5 total. You're squaring the circle. So that's why geometry is so important. We're trying to figure out where we are in space. That's why music is important, because we're seeing where we are as far as harmony, as far as rhythm. Rhythm's probably the better word. So, so we have the 5 elements: spirit, air, earth, fire, water. Okay, so what does that mean? That's something interesting to note, that all those elements are the main, you could break life down to that. So if that's the macrocosm, the microcosm is how it affects you, how it deals with you, the individual. So we know through contemplation, and then you read and figure it out for yourself, that each one of these elements has an attribute of normal life in your individual self. So you have water, which has to do with your emotions. You can imagine your heart pumping the blood, you feel the love in your heart. So this is all connected with water, the element of water. So we have emotion for water. For earth, we have, your physical statehood, your physical aesthetic life, things look beautiful. Anything that has to do with the physical aspects of life, comfort, those kinds of things are associated with the element of earth. Air is, of course, the mental realm. There's other attributes, but air having to do with the mental is a common association, and it makes sense. And then fire, of course, is your excitement about life. It's, they always say that air and fire are more masculine and earth and water are more feminine. And these are just ways to break it down in a macrocosmic level. In a microcosmic level, then it gets, more subjective and all this. But we can stick to this system because it works. Water, emotion. Earth, physical needs, daily life. Fire, your willpower. Your solar plexus. There's so many attributes. What did I miss? Air, the earth, having to do with the mental. Your main mental attribute, Your brain is higher. It's close to the top of the pyramid of yourself, and just having to do with the free flow of thought. You're contemplating things in the etheric realm. It's and the winds of change and whatnot. I'm missing something there, but this is real. And I shouldn't have to break down every little thing. And I'm gonna bring for the. This is a great book here, The Story of Philosophy by Will Durant, and he breaks down all the great philosophers ever. But specifically, I wanted to talk about a section that I highlighted a long time ago that I thought was super interesting, because he breaks philosophy itself down into 5 fields, and that's perfect. And I personally have taken those individual fields and put them with the element that should go. And this is kind of like what philosophy and esoteric things are. You're making associations and kind of making a more blanket. You're making blanket statements, but it helps you see the macrocosm, and then you're the microcosm, and you're seeing how that works, and you're not putting things into boxes exactly to make it too stagnant, but you're just getting a grip of the knowledge of the world, the real simple things. So his 5 fields of philosophy, Will Durant, are logic, aesthetics, ethics, politics, and metaphysics. And so, right off rip, we said that air had to do with the mental realm, and we know that that's logic. Okay? You're not feeling a certain way, you're logically looking at it, and that's air. So, logic would be air. Aesthetics, it's real simple. That's earth. That's philosophy of earth. Aesthetics. Um, Metaphysics, that's spirit. Simple as that. That's how easy it is. And then we have ethics and politics. And for me, I think that ethics should be associated with water, because ethics kind of have to do with morality. And I think the reason why we're moral is because we feel like shit if we do something bad. So that's going to affect your emotions, and emotions are associated with water. And that brings politics being fire. And I think, those of us that have looked deeper into it understand the brotherhoods of the fire and whatnot. And these are the higher levels of Western learning. Not just Western, but that's a correct way to say it. If you read Manly Palmer Hall's theses, he'll tell you that they're real into fire itself. They're kind of a sun cult anyway, the Masons and whatnot. They're super into the sun, and so is Christianity. Christianity is a sun cult because God's sun in the sky is the light of the world. It all comes back around. It all comes back around. So for me, I'm not doing science. I'm not conducting experiments in science. I'm not building things. I'm talking about philosophy. I'm saying if we're going to build something, we need to know the ethics and the morals of it, or if it's even worth a shit. And that's why ancient cultures have these great things. The Egyptians with the pyramids and whatnot. They're working on these same things. They took it as objective facts. Our science, the materialism, it doesn't have spirit in there. So they're full of shit. They don't know anything. They're totally behind. And the ones that are way up there doing shit, they know. They know, but they don't want people to know because they want to have a monopoly on knowledge. But we have the internet now, and there's a million people like me doing this stuff. And I'm just doing my part to make the correlations in a modern way. That's what I'm doing here. I'm taking the old wisdom and putting it into modern terminology because I've contemplated it and making personal sacrifices to get this knowledge, and it's real basic. That's so I'm and what I was saying is I'm not a scientist. What I'm working in is philosophy, the love of wisdom. We talk about science, it's theoretical. It's not practical application. So the five I thought that was great that he broke it down, because we like to break things down into systems so we can learn them and not just memorize it, but kind of have some associations. So I thought that it was just great how he had these five fields of philosophy, because I've never heard anyone else do that. And he's not that prolific in himself, but he seems to be a great scholar of philosophy. And he doesn't necessarily like all the people that I like. He kind of like takes shots at Hegel and stuff. A lot of people do, um, which is fine. There's some people are more conservative in their philosophy, and some people are, you know, into the aesthetics of it. And at the end of the day, we each need and want a holistic approach to this stuff. So you're gonna wanna work on the water element in yourself, and there's all these rituals that they do in you know magic theory and practice and stuff like that. There's different rituals you can learn, and at the end of the day, it's focusing your individual will on attaining some stuff. And sometimes it's better to just live in ignorance, because ignorance is bliss. But once you go to a certain point, there ain't no turning back, because you can't lie to yourself. I mean, if you do, you're going to be sad and unhappy. People go their whole lives without learning a damn thing about nothing. But you know what? That's fine, because there's classes of people that they're fine. They just need their family, their simple life, and they're good. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's others of us that just want to know the information. I wasn't happy to just be playing music, for instance, and singing these lyrics that were important to me, but I thought, well, shit, maybe they're wrong, because I hear, like, there's people like Jim Morrison that I look up to, and now looking back at him, I'm like, damn, dude, you really didn't know shit. You knew very little, and you got lucky sometimes. And sometimes when people go with their feelings, they come across the right way of doing it. Like the trivium, for instance, the grammar, logic, rhetoric, people already do that. They take the information, which is collecting the grammar of it, logically filtering it out of what's bullshit before they speak about it. So we're doing it backwards. We're saying, like, yeah, that's how your brain works. But what if we could consciously use this method to do greater things? Like, I'll sit here and I'll read a book and I'll just be so lost, man. And I'm like, gosh, all I need to do is sit it down for a minute. Maybe I'll, go do some chores or play a video game or listen to some music, and then out of nowhere, 2 days later, I'll be driving somewhere, and it'll just, oh yeah, that makes sense. I've given myself time to process things, and that's why we have to study each field of spirituality. The Zen Buddhists and whatnot, they're great at processing information, but I don't think they're very good at gathering it. I think they're a bit lazy, to be honest with you. And sometimes the some Western practitioners, they may be great at gathering information. They're like freaking robots. Terrence McKenna comes to mind. Well, did Terrence McKenna ever stop and relax for a minute? I don't know if he did. I think my camera's fucked up. He should have maybe relaxed for a minute and been able to process his information a little bit more, so he doesn't come up with these crazy theories that are ego driven, like his time wave thing. What the hell is he talking about? The end of the Mayan calendar ends on his birthday? Dude, but that doesn't mean all of his information is bullshit, because he's a fucking genius. Terrence McKenna is a bad motherfucker. Alan Watts, we'll go down the line. Alan Watts, he was super great at gathering info, and he even added a little bit more Eastern mysticism to his game, and he was able to stay calm and relaxed and da 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 da. But he has some things that aren't correct. He got into this postmodern idea of subjective morality and all that, and other postmodern fallacies. So, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater on these guys, you know? And we're kind of reverse engineering our logic when we study the trivium, because we're saying like, oh wow, that's interesting. That's how that's how your brain automatically works. You go and get the info, you think about it for a while, you get rid of the bullshit, and this might be a long count calendar of you doing this, of getting some information, and then a year later you find out something new and you reevaluate. So we're always doing this, and it's just like in astrology, the long count calendars of the sun moving from one sign to the other, objectively, like from Pisces to Aquarius, and then a shorter calendar of months of the year going through, and then even shorter than that, minutes. How, the lunar minute and the sun hour and the Mercury second of our clock. Seconds are actually Mercury. Um, as a matter of fact, if the world was a clock, the second hand would be pointing directly at Mercury. This is objective. The minute hand is the moon, minute moon. Minute hand is the moon from our planet to the moon. Doot, doot, doot. And the hour hand, hour, Horus, the sun, is the actual sun in the sky if Earth was its own clock. So I mean, this is part of getting to that extra consciousness that animals don't have. We have language, and we develop these systems on how to live better. It's an evolution and devolution of who we are. And you're just bored to tears if you're not if you're not doing this shit, man. I don't know how people go along from day to day and just saying like, well, someone's probably figured it out. Someone else knows this stuff. Dude, you gotta see the big picture, man, or it'll just kill you inside. But I understand people have to work, and they don't have time for it. And we just got the internet, man. I remember a time we were not using the internet. Like, for instance, when I was in middle school, there was no MySpace or Facebook even. We were on AOL Instant Messenger, and it wasn't worth a shit. It was boring. It was basically sending text messages. So, but there's gonna be people like me and people that are way beefier than me at these topics and subjects to go ahead and uh, bring bring it to an easier understanding. We could talk about a subject, and man, I could. We need someone to people to condense down all the knowledge. So we'll talk about a subject, and I'll have read 5 books on the thing, so I can tell you in 10 minutes more than you're gonna figure out in the next year. And that's I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that whenever you do the work, that's what you're good at. Just like people that work in certain fields, man, they know that shit. They can tell you right off bat. So I plan on doing my part and breaking down some of these topics so you can learn it in 10 minutes and not spend a lifetime. And there's people that have been doing this. It's an ongoing thing throughout history of this knowledge. You know, the ancient Egypts did it, and the Celts and the Romans, and it got condensed. Alexandria burned down, but a few sages kind of kept a little bit of it, and these guys got a hold of it. And then, the German idealists, they're going off learning everything, and they have it all condensed down to a thing. Germany's amazing. You can't even believe how terrible oh man, they had it all figured out, and they went, just humanity is imperfect, and everyone's learning as we go, and the macrocosm of God itself is learning as it goes with us as the tools, the individual tools of living it out. So I'm just trying to pick up where some of these people left off and give my lowbrow opinion about it. And hopefully, I'm going to keep getting better and better at this. But I'm always going to come from a lowbrow perspective, because we don't need these people in the universities. They come up with these advanced languages that no one knows, like law, for instance. They come up with their own language that you have to pay someone thousands of dollars to interpret for you. And that's like the priest class of, ancient Europe reading the Bible to people, because no one else knew Latin. So you had to have a priest tell you what the universe was about. There was no learning it yourself. So And what people figured out over these years is, if the kingdom of heaven is within, then it's really about work on yourself and learning it for yourself. But then to a certain point, you can't just come up with all the answers. You got to study and you got to work. So what we're doing here is breaking down the the numbers 1 through 9, and just getting a good look at what those numbers are to the outside world and ourselves, the psychological aspects of these things, as above, so below. And number 5 is very significant to humans because we have 5 fingers. And I think a lot of people, there's more new agey ways of saying it, is like, if animals are in a 3D world, they don't have thought. Maybe thought is the 4th dimension, and then, we're trying to get to the 5th dimension in a way, and that's fine. You could put it in those terms, but I like to take the lowbrow approach. I call it that, practical approach, just that anyone could learn, because the great wisdom isn't the hardest shit in the world to learn. And I feel like a lot of the technology these days, they don't even have the basics down. So yeah, they're doing great stuff. They're doing like magical things, but they might not know the morality of it. You know, they might figure out a way to put their soul into a computer and live forever as a robot. It's not gonna work out for you, because there's already an organic process of moving consciousness to a more eternal, more immortal type of thing. Excuse me. A more immortal version, and that's basically, carrying your thoughts through to the next level of evolution. And it might not be conscious thoughts. It could be like, animals that are born automatically know the animals before its knowledge of gathering food and survival and stuff. It's bodily awareness. So there's nothing wrong with being a savage of an animal, because this thing knows how to do stuff, man. That, it's not philosophy, but it's, if you can't survive past a certain point, you don't have time to read and write and learn math, because we're coming from a basic level. We're moving from the bottom up and the bottom down and getting a clarity on the overall picture. So, for me, sometimes I'll feel myself slipping, and maybe I need a little bit of that fire in me. I need a little bit more strength to go through and burn away all the bullshit and just focus. So, I'm going to listen to music that has to do with that. I'm going to listen to something that gets you excited, the Flight of the Valkyries, or whatever it's called, that Wagner thing, dun, 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 and I'm going to get hyped up and just be like, yes. And I'm gonna other things that have to do with fire, other things that have to do with those aspects. So what did we say? Politics for fire. Shoot, man, that'll get you fired up right there. Um, and maybe you don't feel grounded enough. A lot of new age people are, they need to get more grounded, because they're talking about all kinds of crazy spiritual things. So, maybe work on your aesthetics, work on your gardening, work on your painting, and keeping your room clean. I love how Jordan Peterson says, man, you want to save the world, you want to clean up the world, you haven't even cleaned your room first. Your room's a disaster, and you want to fix the geopolitical situation of human government. Like, you haven't even done your laundry, dude. So, that all has to do with the element of earth and aesthetics. And, maybe you're really good at aesthetics and your politics are on point, And you know, in your logic, you're one of these brainiacs where you're just super, and you're very smart when it comes to practical things, and you're a brainiac. But maybe your ethics are just way out of whack, man. Like you don't have any morality at all. You're ready to, you're Bill Gates. He wants to reduce population with, oh, he's a great guy though. Fuck off, dude. You need some ethics. You need morality. You need to put your foot in the water, and you need to see what water can do for you. You need to get balanced in your heart, and that's a feminine thing, and it's hard for us dudes to do, but we all got mamas, and that's why I don't buy this shit of gender wars. Y'all got mamas, and these women, at the end of the day, you need a dude for whatever you need dudes for. So we're trying to have a nice life and have a little fun while we're doing it. And so these are real simple things just to just to get just to get going with enlightenment, man. Because I got to a point where I was dealing with this guy Buddha, and man, I'll tell you, I had to get into some of the Western schools of philosophy and spirituality because Buddha wasn't giving me enough information. Same thing with Christianity took me so far, and then Buddha and Zen, and I learned a lot from Alan Watts on the subject right here on YouTube. When YouTube first came out, man, I was so stoked because I'm wanting these things. I'm talking about it at bars with my friends and at concerts and at work or whatever. I'm talking philosophy and these deep things, and everyone's real into talking about it. But man, I'll tell you, we had no idea some of the stuff that's out there. If you're just not around it. And I heard a couple lectures of Alan Watts, and man, all of a sudden I'm thinking I'm a Zen Buddhist. This is the path right here, and eventually that'll only take it so far. So my initial ideas were pretty hermetic now that I've researched hermeticism, because I'll tell you that's the next step from Buddhism, is getting back to the West, and where there's a lot of information and a lot of brain work going on. For some reason, the Western culture's spirituality, it gives you a lot more information. Than, they're not saying that chi is magical at all. Wilhelm Reich will tell you exactly what it is. It's actual electricity, and perhaps that is the fifth element itself, which Will Durant here would say is metaphysics, and I would say that that's associated with spirit. And that's a thing too. Maybe you're into the four branches, you're into the four elements, and you got that shit going on, but you don't have any metaphysical work at all. You're gonna be waiting in line to upgrade your brain, upload your brain to the iPhone, and become a robot because you don't even believe in any metaphysics. And I get mad about Joe Rogan about that. What the hell is Joe Rogan talking about? Jesus Christ, bro. But I could see how you would want to do that. I understand. If you heard what the people from Facebook said recently, it's laughable. I mean, they're saying they're making Alex Jones. Alex Jones is getting he sounds more right by the day. I had to take him off my notifications because it's so depressing, and the way he looks at it. But I mean, he's right. He's but he's stuck in the whole Christian paradigm, and that's fine, man. Uh, that stuff is just like the Christianity and Buddhism I was talking about. At one point, Alex Jones was the end all be all, and I felt like, okay, I need to work on some other stuff because this is taking me as far as I can. And with all this Trump stuff and Hillary, we feel like Obama and Hillary and the Bushes of the world are just evil. So let's Trump the damn system. But we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We want to take back control of the system. We don't want to just try to kill the system, because then we don't have anything. Because America is, whether you like it or not, the amalgamation of a lot of the Western knowledge that we have. And we found out, we already went through communism, we already went through all this stuff, and they knew it back in the day. That's why the forefathers put in there what they put in there about individual freedoms, individual rights, because we already knew that people are going to take advantage. There's going to be some kind of lord of the land or some kind of king that's going to come in there and try to fuck with you if we don't have a democratically elected system put into place. It has to be a democracy. My eyeball's twitching. So, the number 5 is very important to us, and we have the 5 elements, the mysterious element of spirit. You know, a lot of these New Agers are way too into spirit, and they're not grounded at all, and it's a very feminine thing to do. Sometimes you take a hit of acid and meet the Divine Mother. And you think everyone believes that, everyone automatically understands that too, and they don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It sounds crazy to the untrained ear, and especially how ungrounded it is in reality. So, you're going to want to get into some of these other topics. And, numerology is, just a way to just kind of get in. And I don't mean numerology as far as, they get deep into it. They take the number and put the Hebrew letter to it, and it's, that's more advanced, obviously. Can't wait to get into more of the deeper stuff. Or, they take the number and they'll take a date, 1984, and they'll add all those together and then come up with another number, and it'll be a divination. That's fine. Divination, there's something to it, man. It's like another one of those magical things that just works, and we don't know how it does, but I'll tell you how it does. It's because the outside is equal to the inside in a way, and the macrocosm reflects the micro and back and forth. And all these concepts come from that fourth dimensional, or however you want to say it, thing that we humans have of cognitive thought and thinking about thought, like Alan Watts would say, thinking about thought. And I lost my train of thought, but anyways, that's a short breakdown of, oh yeah, I was gonna say the psychological aspects of the knowledge, not just that you're just getting binged around by the objective powers of the universe. That actually, since we've come up with these methods in our thought, we've projected it onto the outside world to try to figure out where we are in space and time. And these things come back to us. So it's kind of from our psychology, that fourth thing, making a system out of what we see, and then noticing how it moves, because we know that it's moving the same in our own self. So this is another book recommendation. Just to, you can read this thing in a couple days if you're diligent, or you read a couple pages, put it down. But yeah, he has his 5 fields of philosophy, and I think I just clearly put out how those can be associated with the 5 elements, and I'm sure he didn't do that on purpose. This is my point, is that these things just happen because that's the nature of the mental world and our logic and our knowledge. And the wise man notices that and starts making these correspondences. And so, he kind of uses divination in a way, but really he's going from his own experience, So, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll come back to the number 6, and we'll just do that for now. I was trying to be real precise and put together freaking masterpieces, but I clearly do not have the equipment for that right now. So I'm just going to get started and leave a little bit room for magic. Leave a little room in there, and not be 100% left-brained, robotic. I'm gonna just kind of wing it a little bit, and we'll just chat and talk about these things because that's just what works for me right now. And I'm looking forward to putting together some videos, and hopefully they get more fun and better for everybody. And thanks for tuning in. Trev out. Peace out, and much love.